Kevin with Absolute Outdoors, and today I want to discuss some things that you should be keeping in your vehicle should you come across an emergency while traveling. Now, as of the recording of this video, across the United States, many areas are being absolutely pounded by snow, extremely cold temperatures, high winds, all things that make for a particularly dangerous situation should you have an emergency while traveling. Now, of course, all this is happening right before Christmas when people usually travel. So the first general category of items that I'm going to recommend everyone keep in their vehicle is related to first aid. So the first item that is relatively inexpensive and very accessible for most people is going to be a first aid kit. You need to be keeping a first aid kit in your vehicle, not just during, a time when you might come across a dangerous weather storm or anything like that, cold weather. You should be keeping this in your vehicle year-round, all the time. Something like this, of course, you can buy at your local store, grocery store. You can order it online. I bought this from my local Walmart. They're relatively inexpensive. I think I paid $30 or $40 for it. It includes things that you need to treat injuries related to burns, scratches, lacerations, maybe insect bites or stings. It's also usually going to include maybe like a small water packet, glow stick, other things like an alcohol swab, a bunch of cleaning pads, stuff like that. All very useful items, and I guarantee if you pick up one of these, it will come in handy while you're traveling at some point. Another type of kit that you need to be keeping in your vehicle is going to be a trauma kit. Something like this I made. You can also buy them online ready to go with the things you need. Generally a trauma kit is going to be used to treat more severe injuries, and it's going to include stuff like trauma bandages, a tourniquet, quick-clot gauze, stuff like that, maybe some scissors to cut open clothing, pants, to access a person and treat a wound or an injury, whatever. So a good tourniquet is really important. Cat makes really good tourniquets. There's other companies out there. I can't stress this enough. Do not buy a cheap knockoff tourniquet or medical equipment. Get something that is tried and true and trusted by professionals, whether that's tourniquets or anything else. Buy stuff that you can count on. Another thing that I need to mention with tourniquets, trauma gear, anything that's medically related that is, just in general, it's a really good idea to get some training and have some more knowledge, some practice on how to use these items that you are keeping on your person, in your vehicle, at home, whatever. Stuff like a tourniquet especially can be life-saving, but only if you really know how to use it properly. So I really strongly recommend that you get some training, have some knowledge, and practice with stuff like this so that if you ever have to, you know how to use it and hopefully save the life of yourself or others. Now, another thing that I strongly recommend you keep in your vehicle is going to be some sort of kit for medication. If you have any prescriptions, especially stuff that's life-saving, I'm sure you know, keep that stuff accessible, keep it with you, maybe a little bit more than you need, whatever it may be. The point is to have it, so if you're away from home, you're away from people that can help you, you have it, it can save your life, it can help you out, whatever the case may be. So in this kit I have some cold medicine, I have immune supplements, I have pain relievers, I have antacid tablets, like ibuprofen, I even have some sanitizing gel, cortisone 10, potassium iodide for preventing absorption of strontium-90 through your thyroid, which is basically like a radiation type thing. So a kit for keeping medications and certain drugs that you may or may not need. I guarantee you this will come in handy at some point. I've used this for myself and many other people while traveling, and it is very useful, a very good idea to keep it in your vehicle. Strongly recommend it. Again, this is something you can buy as a kit online, or you can put it together yourself. I recommend doing it yourself because you can kind of pick and choose what you want, get the good stuff, if you know what I mean. And yeah, so keep this in your truck. I strongly recommend it. The second general category of items that you're going to want to keep in your vehicle, and you'll notice as we go through this video, it's basically going to be kind of in order of priority, right? First aid, if anyone's injured in an emergency, especially if it's a serious injury, you want to take care of that. Possibly first thing, first priority, depending on the situation. Every situation is dynamic, right? But the second category, and this is one of the most important things, especially during extreme cold weather, is to have what you need to stay warm and protect yourself and others from the elements. So basically this is going to include stuff like jackets, snow pants, boots, gloves, hats, base layers, stuff like that. So the first thing I'm going to show you are some boots that I have and keep in my vehicle. These are some 1,600 gram Thorogoods. Excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold, so I apologize for that. They're made with 3M Thinsulate insulation. These are going to keep your feet extremely warm. They're waterproof. I use them a lot for hunting, and I've spent literally hundreds of hours out in nasty cold weather with these, and they are amazing. They are worth every penny. By the way, these were about $160, $200, so they're a little more on the expensive side, but again, they're worth the money and they work very well. So the next thing, of course, as it relates to keeping warm, is going to be stuff for a base layer. So anything with wool is what you're going to want to look for if it's in your budget, especially, is to get something that goes underneath your shirt, underneath your pants, socks, stuff like that, that at least has some wool in it. You can find things like merino wool socks and base layers. Wool will have better thermal properties even when wet. It retains, I think, like 80% of its thermal properties even when wet. So getting something with wool in it, or all wool if you can find it, is a really good idea. Point is, get a base layer, get some socks, a really good pair of socks or two. Keep it with you in your vehicle, especially during situations like these where you have extreme cold. It's really going to help you stay warm. And know how to layer. A lot of people do not know how to layer very well, and that can also cause issues. You don't want to put on too much, right? That's the first thought people have if it's really cold, is put on a ton of clothing and get really warm. Well, that can make you really hot too, cause you to sweat, and getting wet can cause you to get cold when you really don't want that. So having a good understanding of how to layer properly so you're not way too hot and you're not too cold is really important as well. I recommend looking that up and kind of learning how to layer. That's very useful information. So a good pair of gloves is obviously going to be something you're going to want to keep. I recommend stuff that is made for being outside in extreme conditions. These are snowmobile gloves. These fit the description of that, outside use, extreme cold, maybe wind, getting wet, that kind of stuff. It fits the description of that use very well. Snowmobile gloves. So these you can buy on Amazon. That's where I ordered these, just a random brand that had good reviews. They cinch down around your arms to help keep the elements out, and they also allow you to access your fingers, have full control, right? Something like that I like. So bottom line, a really good pair of gloves is critical to keep your hands warm. Once your hands start to get cold, especially if they're getting really cold, is you're not going to be able to have that control to manipulate your fingers. Maybe if you're typing something, trying to communicate with somebody, keeping your hands warm is critical to being able to do things like that, such as communicating. So a really good thing to keep in your vehicle as well, at a bare minimum, some type of heavy jacket, snow pants, hat, right? You're going to want a good hat to keep your head warm. I recommend a face mask because, bottom line, if you're in extreme cold, high winds, whatever, you're going to want to keep your skin covered, your body warm, right? Because hypothermia and frostbite can set in very quickly. So I recommend clothing that is designed to be windproof and waterproof. That's what we have here. Are some snow pants that are basically designed to be used for hunting, but they also are a great option for emergency preparedness or just being outside in general. Again, they're windproof, waterproof, and they're very warm. So I've actually spent hundreds of hours using these two in extreme weather, and they work very well. Usually anything that's intermediate or premium as far as hunting clothing is concerned is going to be a decent option. Again, do research, figure out what you're buying, make sure it's worth the money. But when it comes to warm clothing, usually the more money you spend, the better product you're going to get. So the next general category of items that I strongly recommend you keep in your vehicle at all times is going to relate to water and food. Now, first and foremost is going to be water. You need to keep yourself hydrated. A lot of people underestimate the amount of time it takes to get dehydrated, or even the amount of water that the average person needs or goes through. So you need to have ready access to purified water that you can drink, and that is absolutely critical. I recommend, at a bare minimum, having just some water bottles. I drank this already, but at a bare minimum, have some water bottles full of water in your truck, so that you have some purified drinking water ready to go immediately. Now, of course, in cold weather, stuff like this is going to freeze quickly, but you can do things like put it, next to your body, underneath your clothing, and kind of melt that ice a little bit. Another good option that I found for slowing down the freezing process of drinking water is to put it in some sort of vacuum-sealed container. This is a Yeti tumbler type deal, excuse me. I have a cold, so I apologize for that, but thermos is a good option too. You can put water in there, and that vacuum seal is going to slow down the rate at which the water freezes, and it'll really help you there. So the other thing to consider, right, is it's also going to slow down the rate at which it warms up and thaws out. So I recommend taking these things in as often as possible and letting it thaw out before bringing it back out to your vehicle and keeping it there. But keep readily accessible purified drinking water in your vehicle at all times. Getting dehydrated is something that can happen very quickly, and unfortunately that can lead to death faster than most people think, or serious injury. So another thing as it relates to having water that I recommend keeping in your vehicle at all times is a way to purify more water, right? Because water bottles and purified drinking water that you have stored is a consumable. You need to be able to get more water, right, to stay hydrated and cook food or whatever else that you're going to do, which we'll get into that in a second. But I like the Sawyer water filter systems. LifeStraw makes a good one too. This kit ran me about $30 or $40. It includes everything you need to basically collect snow, even like water in a puddle or a swamp. And it filters out basically the majority of contaminants and things that you don't want to ingest, and basically creates safe drinking water that you can use immediately. So a water filtration system is something that you should be keeping in your vehicle. Storing gallons of water in a vehicle is really not ideal, and it can be difficult to do. So having something that gives you the option to purify and drink as much water as you need is critical, in my opinion. Now, of course, when we're talking about extreme cold or emergency survival type things in general, your body needs fuel. It needs calories to generate heat, to stay alive, to stay warm. Now, you're not going to starve to death for quite a while. It takes a while for your body to actually starve to death. So this isn't quite as important, but it still is important to keep something in your vehicle that you can eat to generate, so your body has fuel to generate heat, right, and keep you warm. So I like Mountain House freezer dried food. You can also keep like granola bars and anything else like that that has a really good shelf life, that's very stable in an environment such as a vehicle. Something like this is going to last about 30 years, and all you have to do, you can see that it says like chicken, mashed potatoes, dinner. You can get different meals and stuff like that. All you have to do to cook this is boil some water or warm it up, pour it in there, and you have a ready hot meal in a few minutes. I've had a few of these. They actually taste very good. And another thing that's very important with stuff like this is having a hot, tasty meal in an emergency situation is going to keep your spirits up. And obviously it's going to give your body the fuel it needs to keep generating heat and keep you going. So some food, something like this, very good idea. I think it's very important to keep several servings of food of some type in your vehicle in case you have an emergency while traveling, especially during the winter or a storm or something like that. It's absolutely critical in my opinion. So the fourth general category that I'm going to go through here is communications equipment, right? You need a way to communicate with emergency services or your family or anyone else that you may need to, right? So the first and foremost thing that you're going to have that will give you the ability to do this, right, is your phone. Most people have a phone. They're going to be able to call emergency services, text, email, whatever they need to do. And most of the time that will work. However, there are some areas that when you're traveling through, you won't have service. Maybe your battery will die when you're traveling. That happens to me sometimes where my phone will die. And it's very important that you have a way to charge your phone or a secondary communication option. So I recommend having a power bank in your vehicle or several of them. They make different sizes, of course. This is a smaller one, but you keep these charged, you keep them in your vehicle, and you keep power cords that you need according to the device that you have, or devices. And that way, if you run out of juice in any of them, you can recharge them and keep going, keep communicating with whoever you need to. So I know this isn't going to be in everyone's budget, but when I say satellite phones, people think, oh, that's going to cost thousands of dollars, it's going to cost so much money. Well, in today's world, there's a lot of options that are relatively affordable, and I think it's totally worth the investment, right? It's for safety and emergency preparedness. So Garmin makes a very reliable and solid option overall for a satellite communications device. This is their Garmin InReach SE Plus model. They have different models. This one was about $300. That's about what they go for depending on what you buy. But basically it will allow you to check the weather, it will allow you to find your coordinates, communicate with emergency services, your family via text message or email even, and again, it's satellite based, so all you need really is a clear line of sight to the sky and you can get a message through. Another thing that these are equipped with is an SOS feature. So you pull that cover back and you hit that button. This device will actually initiate an SOS response and coordinate an emergency rescue operation, basically, with emergency services, search and rescue centers, and they'll evaluate the best method to extract you and anyone else and bring you to safety. So getting something like this is a very important thing to do, in my opinion. It's waterproof. You can keep it clipped to your person or something in your vehicle or a bag perhaps, and they hold their battery life quite well. I've had this charged and off for over a year, turned it on, and the battery is still mostly charged. So keeping something like this, I highly recommend it. It's only $10 or $15 a month for the safety plan. You get insurance with it, and I'll do a video on this, more going into more detail on this and thoroughly explaining all about it. So subscribe if you want to stay tuned for that. So a good communications device is really important. I also recommend having some type of flashlight, or flashlights are even better, right? Having more of them. This is a 1,000 lumen Bushnell flashlight. It is waterproof, it is rechargeable, it has a focus feature, a power bank in it as well. So something like this will run you about $40 or so. This Bushnell is $40. It's a very good option, and having something, of course, that you can use to see is a really good idea, as you can imagine. So Another thing that I like to have is a headlamp. This is a 600 lumen Bushnell headlamp with multiple modes and features, and right, it's got the elastic headband that goes around your head, and having something to see with is a really good idea. So another thing that I quickly want to mention is having something in your vehicle on your person for personal protection, whether that's from people that may wish to do you harm or animals that are the same way. And generally this is going to be something like pepper spray, a knife, maybe a taser, maybe some sort of punching instrument like a tactical pen, something like that, or a handgun. Now, you will have to check with your local laws and make sure that whatever you are carrying as a defensive weapon is legal for you to carry, of course. But having something to protect yourself or others should someone or something wish to do you harm is a very good idea. So I highly recommend having something with you, or more than one thing, to protect yourself. Another thing that I strongly recommend having is some sort of carry bag for all of these items that we just mentioned. This is a 35-liter black bag made by SOG. I think they call it their day pack or something. Having a carrier, a backpack, something that you can put all of these items into to keep it organized, readily accessible, and ready to go. Let's say if your vehicle is on fire, if you crash, or maybe the area you're in is not very friendly and you need to move for whatever reason. Having all of your items in a bag to grab and go is a really good idea. Plus, if you need to bring it inside, work on it a little bit, it's really easy and convenient. And really good idea to have a bag. Doesn't cost much. You can get some really good options that are more expensive, but something like this, just to get started at least, is going to run you 35, 40 bucks. 50 bucks, something like that. Get a bag and keep your stuff in it. I highly recommend it. It'll serve you well. So that's pretty much going to do it for today's video. I'm going to do more videos on all of these items and keeping things in your vehicle in general to give you more information, go into detail, be more thorough about explaining things, how they're used, why I have it. For the sake of time, I'm not going to do that in this video, right? That would take way too long. And but if you want to see that, subscribe to the video and you'll be notified when the video does come out, or videos. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and if you have any feedback you'd like to leave, any questions or additional information you'd like to add to the video, go ahead and leave a comment down below, and I would love to hear from you. Go ahead and subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed it. And also, I just started a Patreon account. There'll be a link for that down below, so if you're interested in helping the channel grow financially, then you, for as little as $2 a month, you can help us do so. Anything that you can do if you're interested in doing that is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you next time.